Okay, confession time. I did not expect to get emotionally invested in a book about warrior cats, but this book, Into the Wild, really got me. At first I thought, oh, this will be a light, fun read, and then suddenly I was knee-deep in clan politics and betrayals and existential questions about loyalty. This book is way smarter than it looks, and today we're diving into exactly why it works so well. Spoilers ahead, so you've been warned. Hey, I'm Father Roderick, I'm a priest, I'm a geek, and I'm here to share with you the deeper layers of the stories that you love. So, Into the Wild. This is the first book in the Warrior Cats series, and it follows Rusty, a house cat, turned warrior. He leaves his comfortable life behind and joins the wild world of ThunderClan. I love that name. What starts as a simple story about talking cats quickly turns into a fantasy epic with deep world building, layered character arcs, and moral dilemmas. It reminds me of, for instance, Harry Potter, where this outside boy enters this magical hidden world where there are lots of rules he needs to conform to, and at the same time, he learns what it means to be a rebel. Another example, Mistborn, where a scrappy underdog has to prove herself in a rigid society. And of course, Game of Thrones, with its clan politics and betrayals and power struggles. But here's the real question. What makes this book so compelling? Well, to find out, let's start with one of the biggest reasons that Into the Wild works. World building. And it's world building that feels real. The clans in this book aren't just groups of talking cats. All these clans have their own hierarchies, rituals, laws, and moral codes that feel as real as any human society. There are 4 clans. You've got the Thunder Clan, you've got the Shadow Clan, the Wind Clan, and the River Clan, and each with its own strengths and weaknesses. Then there is the Warrior Code, which is a strict set of rules that governs how cats live, how they fight, and how they survive. And then up there is the mysterious Star Clan, a mystical afterlife where the spirits of warriors guide the living. But here's the genius part. We don't get all this in a big info dump at the start of the book. No, everything is revealed naturally as Rusty, soon to be Firepaw, learns about it. It's, I think, immersive storytelling done right. Compare this to The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien doesn't start with a history lesson. He lets us experience Middle-earth starting in the Shire, through the eyes of Frodo. It begins small and then gradually it expands. And this is a big lesson for writers. Also, a lesson for me now that I'm writing my own fantasy novel. Don't explain your world through info dumping, but show it through action. However, world building alone doesn't make a great story. The real magic, that happens when we follow a great protagonist through it. And that, of course, is Rusty, or Firepaw. What makes his journey so special? Let's find out. Very briefly, before I continue, I'm just curious, have you read one or more of the books of the Warrior Cat series? Let me know in the comments. Tell me how many you have read. And if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Rusty's arc hits every beat of a classic fantasy hero's journey. You've got the call to adventure. Rusty, the house cat, feels drawn to the wild. The entering of a new world. He joins ThunderClan and must learn all its ways. Facing resistance. Some cats, like Longtail, don't trust him. He has to prove himself through hard work, loyalty, and acts of courage. And then, finally, becoming something more. By the end, Fireclaw is a full-fledged warrior. This is like Frodo leaving the Shire and growing up and learning. It's Harry Potter stepping into Hogwarts. It's Vin from Mistborn learning to survive in the underground. And it works so well because it taps into something universal. We all want to find our place. We all want to prove ourselves. We all want to be more than what the world expects of us. And so the lesson here is that the best character arcs are both personal, relatable, and universal. But Rusty's journey isn't just about self-discovery, it's about survival in a world full of power struggles and hidden dangers. And speaking of power struggles, let's talk about one of the best parts of this book: clan politics and betrayal. I was not expecting clan politics to be this compelling, but here we are. You've got Thunder Clan versus Shadow Clan. That's a classic territorial struggle. You've got Tiger Claw's rise to power. I mean, the guy is basically a feline Macbeth. And then you've got Firepaw's dilemma. Am I going to stay loyal to all the rules of this clan, or am I going to do the right thing even if it requires me to break some of those rules? And then we get the big reveal. Tiger Claw turns out to be a traitor. He killed Redtail, his predecessor, and is now plotting to take over Thunder Clan. And the clues were there all along. You see his hunger for power, his hostility towards the protagonist, Firepaw, the way he challenges Blue Star. I mean, this is Game of Thrones level storytelling. It's got foreshadowing, tension, and a twist that I think feels earned. The lesson here is that betrayals hit hardest when the clues were there all along. But betrayal isn't the only thing that makes the story great. What really gives it its emotional weight are the deeper themes at play, so let's talk about them. The first theme is loyalty versus blind obedience. Some of the cat warriors believe that loyalty means that you have to follow orders no matter what, but Firepaw questions that. For instance, he breaks the rules to help Yellowfang. He challenges authority when he discovers that authority is corrupt. And he follows his own moral compass, not just the warrior code. And this is a huge theme in literature. Harry Potter, for instance, with Dumbledore's army, he challenges the system. In Mistborn, Kelsier fights the oppressive structure that surrounds him. In Fourth Wing, Violet questions the traditions of Basquiat. The lesson here is that the best fantasy stories explore real human dilemmas. But here's something even deeper. This book doesn't just explore loyalty and how difficult it is to stay loyal if your personal conscience pushes you to diverge from the rules. The book also wrestles with faith, with prophecy, and the idea of an afterlife. So let's talk about these religious themes in this book. Let's talk about StarClan. The cats believe that their ancestors watch over them. They become, after they die, actually they don't die immediately, they have 9 lives, right? And it's a literal thing in the book. So you can survive 9 times, and once you have lived your last life, that's where you join a celestial clan, and it's called the Star Clan. And the stars are actually all like the deceased cats that are watching over them. Prophecies shape the course of their history. They follow a warrior code that defines morality. And this mirrors real religious beliefs. The Bible is full of prophets receiving divine messages, very much like how Firepaw learns about the future through omens. You've got this idea of the afterlife, where the dead guide the living. I mean, that's present in the Catholic faith, and also in many other faiths. Think of the saints. Those are people that came before us, and we pray to them to ask them for guidance. And it's also the example that they left us with that helps us to find our own way in life. The warrior code, it's like a moral law, not unlike the 10 Commandments. The clans interpret StarClan's will differently. They get signs from the heavens, but some accept all those with blind faith, take everything literally. Others are looking at those signs with a more skeptical regard. And that's just like how people in the real world approach religion. And I think this adds another layer of depth to the story, making it much more than just a simple adventure. And this brings us to our final question. Why does this book stick with readers for years? I think the answer is that it is because this book is a masterclass in storytelling. Let's break it down. We've got a compelling, relatable protagonist. Firepaw's journey is universal. He's an outsider longing for more, stepping into a dangerous, unfamiliar world where he has to prove himself. We all relate to that feeling, whether it's starting a new job or moving to a new place or simply trying to belong. The best fantasy protagonists, from Harry Potter to Frodo to Vin, start off small and underestimated, but they rise to something much greater through resilience and courage. Firepaw earns his place. He's not special because of some grand prophecy or birthright. He grows through hard work, moral choices, and personal sacrifice. And that makes him someone we root for. But a great protagonist means nothing without a strong world to challenge them. And this is the second reason that makes this book such a great fantasy story. It's the world building. It feels lived in. One of the biggest mistakes that fantasy books can make is over-explaining. Into the Wild does the exact opposite. It doesn't tell you how the clans work, it shows you. Every rule, tradition, and belief system is revealed organically as Firepaw learns them through training, battles, and moments of doubt. This is how Tolkien introduced Middle-earth, not through history lessons, but through Frodo's eyes. And the result? We believe in this world. Even though it is about talking cats, it feels real because of the depth of the culture, the clan rivalries, and the unspoken rules that shape the way warriors live and die. However, even though it's very well done in this series, world building alone isn't enough. A great story also needs conflict. From the very first pages, Into the Wild sets up tension. Rusty wants adventure, but stepping into the wild could mean death. Firepaw wants to belong to his new clan, but his clanmates don't trust him, so he has to earn his place. The Thunder Clan wants peace, but the Shadow Clan grows more dangerous by the day. And then, of course, there is the big villain, Tiger Claw. From the moment that he appears, something feels off. He is too strong, he's too ambitious, he's too aggressive. And by the time we realize the truth, that he's a traitor who murdered the previous deputy, it's a gut punch. This, I think, is foreshadowing done right. The book plants the seeds early, so when the reveal happens, it doesn't just shock us, it makes perfect sense. Great fantasy stories don't just entertain, they keep you guessing, they make you worry about what's coming next, and they leave breadcrumbs for the big moments to come. But the most powerful stories, the ones that stay with us, they don't just tell a thrilling story, they mean something. At first glance, Into the Wild seemed like a fun adventure story about talking cats, but at its core, it's a story about choices. The choice between loyalty and morality. Should you follow the rules even when they're wrong? The choice between power and corruption. What happens when ambition turns into destruction? The choice between faith and prophecy. Do we control our destiny, or has it been written for us in a deterministic way? Firepaw constantly faces all these moral dilemmas. He is taught to follow the warrior code, but time and again he learns that doing what's right sometimes means breaking the rules. I think that sounds very familiar. That's literally the journey of Moses, of Jesus, and countless biblical figures who challenged broken systems to stand for justice. The clans treat Star Clan's prophecies as absolute truth. But just like real-world faith, some warriors interpret it differently, leading to conflict. And this makes the story way more complex than your average middle-grade book. And that, I think, is why Into the Wild isn't just a fun read, it's a story with a lot of depth, meaning, and relevance. Finally, let's talk about payoff. The best books deliver on their promises. They set up questions, and then they give us satisfying answers. Think about it. Rusty wants to prove himself, and by the end, he does. Tiger Claw wants power, and by the end, we see how dangerous he is. The clans are at war, and the final battle delivers high stakes. The most frustrating stories are the ones that lead us on only to disappoint us. Looking at you, last season of Game of Thrones. But Into the Wild does the opposite. It sets things up and pays them off in ways that feel earned and satisfying. And the best part, it only gets better from here. Now I'm curious, if you have read this book or maybe more books of the series, What is your overall assessment? Is this something that you would recommend to people that maybe are past the age of the target audience? Do you agree with me that this book works so well because it is more than just a children's book? Just let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that subscribe button and maybe also the bell icon so you'll get notified whenever I post a new update. You can also talk with me about this book and many other books by joining my Discord. It's totally free. Just go to fatherroderick.com/Discord. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy reading.